You know what's wild? Most people don't want to hear about your problems. They want to watch you drown in them. And if you're not careful, they'll even cheer while you do. That's the hard truth. So let me say this. Don't tell people about your problems. Tell them about your comeback. Because sympathy is temporary, but strength is unforgettable. There's something dangerously beautiful about becoming your own rescue team. Most people are addicted to attention. They think sharing pain will earn them love, validation, or help. But what you don't realize is, every time you tell someone your wounds, you're giving them a weapon they might use later. This world respects mystery, not mess. It rewards power, not everyone deserves access to your vulnerabilities. That's not just a caution. It's a rule for survival in a world that often confuses compassion with curiosity. You see, people may smile at you, nod their heads, even say, "I'm here for you." But the truth is, some people are not safe places. They're just temporary stops for your deepest wounds. And they will not carry the weight with you. They'll carry the story of it to the next table, the next friend, the next gossip session. Imagine this. You're having a rough week. Work is draining. Your relationship's rocky. Your energy is low. So you confide in someone, a friend, a colleague, maybe even a family member. You pour your heart out, thinking you're in a safe space. A few days later, you hear your own struggles being repeated, not with compassion, but with commentary. Did you hear what she's going through? Her boyfriend might leave her. I don't think she's stable right now. That's when it hits you. You weren't speaking to a listener. You were speaking to a loudspeaker. And here's the hard truth. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they've earned the right to know what breaks you. Access to your soul isn't a birthright. It's not based on how long you've known someone or how often you talk. Access must be earned through loyalty, through silence when you're not in the room, and through the rare magic of people who carry your pain like it's sacred, not like it's tea. You need to learn the difference between a healing space and a holding space. Some people hold on to your pain just to remind you of it later. Ever had someone bring up your past failure during a disagreement? Oh, don't forget, you were a mess last month. Remember how you said you couldn't handle life anymore? That's not love. That's emotional manipulation dressed as concern. People like that don't want to see you win. They want to be needed by your brokenness. Because when you heal, you become independent. And your independence threatens their illusion of importance. Let's get real. Vulnerability is powerful, but when you hand it over to the wrong people, it becomes a weapon. You tell someone about your insecurity, and they'll use it in the next argument. You confess that you're struggling financially, and suddenly they treat you like you're beneath them. One day you tell someone you feel ugly, and the next time you rise with confidence, they'll throw your own words back at you. But you said you hate the way you look. That's not support. That's sabotage in slow motion. In your daily life, be observant. Who leans in when you're silent? Who checks on you when there's no drama? Who celebrates you without needing to fix you? Those are your people. Everyone else? They might be nice, they might be familiar, but they're not your safe zone. Think of your vulnerability like your home. Would you leave your front door wide open for every passerby to walk in, take pictures, criticize your furniture, and leave their muddy footprints? No. So why do you do that with your heart? Why do you leave the door open for people who don't know how to respect the space? Your vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a treasure. But even treasure, when exposed to the wrong hands, can be stolen, tarnished, or destroyed. Choose wisely who gets to see your unfiltered soul. Everyone can see your smile, your outfit, your success, but your tears, your fears, your midnight thoughts, those are reserved, those are sacred. And the sacred is never public property. Some people pretend to care just to stay updated on your misery, not to help you, not to heal you, but to feed their thirst for drama. They wear empathy like a costume, not a character. They'll message you with, "Hey babe, how are you holding up?" But they don't want the real answer. They want the juicy, messy, emotional one. So they can screenshot it, repeat it, and play it back like a reality show rerun for their inner circle. Let's be honest. The minute you break down in life, certain people don't rush in with support. They lean in for information. Not out of love, but out of low-key obsession with your downfall. You broke up with someone? Oh no, I'm here for you, tell me everything. What they really mean is, tell me all the dirt. I need something new to talk about. And once you've poured your heart out, they leave you dry and go refill themselves with the thrill of your trauma. It happens in the office too. You're struggling with deadlines or burned out mentally. A coworker walks up and says, "You don't seem okay. Want to talk?" You open up thinking they're being kind. But by lunchtime, your anxiety has become the entire team's topic. She told me she's overwhelmed. I think she's not cut out for this role. Suddenly, you're not the strong woman they respected. You're now the fragile one. This is what happens when you confuse attention with intention. Just because someone is giving you time doesn't mean they have the right heart for you. There are people who check in on you just to ensure you're still broken. Why? Because your strength would outshine their own insecurities. As long as you're weak, they feel tall. As long as you're hurting, they feel helpful. But once you start healing, growing, or moving on, they disappear. Or worse, they try to remind you of your pain. Are you sure you're ready for this? Didn't you just have a breakdown a few weeks ago? They want you to stay in your storm because they have no light to offer if you ever find your sun. It's not love. It's emotional voyeurism. You're not a human to them. You're a storyline, a drama, a download of bad news they refresh like an app. You'll notice it in the way they ask questions. Did he text you back yet? Are you still going to therapy? Are you eating okay? Or still not really? And you think they care. But if you say yes, I'm better, I'm healing, I'm moving forward, their energy shifts, their smile fades, the texts come slower. Because you've taken away their favorite show, your pain. You can feel it when someone's curiosity is louder than their compassion. When they keep asking questions but never offer help. When they want your story but not your silence. When they lean in more when you're falling apart, but disappear when you say you're doing fine. So next time someone offers you a shoulder, look at their eyes, not their words. Real care is silent, solid, and sacred. Fake care is loud, nosy, and loaded with intentions that benefit from your breakdown. Your life is not a series. Your pain is not a playlist. Your story is not for public viewing. Be private with your battles and selective with your storytellers. Some people aren't listening to love you. They're listening to use you. And trust me, nothing tastes better to a fake friend than a fresh serving of your chaos dressed as confession. Your silence can be louder than your scream. And in a world that constantly tells women to explain themselves, defend themselves, and justify their every emotion, silence is a revolution. It's power. It's elegance with a spine of steel. Because the moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop giving energy to what doesn't deserve it, that's when people start paying attention. And not because you're loud, but because your absence echoes louder than their noise. Think about it. You're in an argument, maybe it's with your partner, a friend, or a family member. The usual script unfolds. You raise your voice, they raise theirs. You explain your feelings, they twist them. You beg to be understood, they shrug or mock or gaslight you into believing you're too sensitive. Then one day, you don't shout back, you don't argue, you just go quiet. That silence, it shakes them. Because silence is uncomfortable. Silence forces people to confront the truth. Without your help, without your words, without your defense. There's a woman right now who stopped texting first. She stopped sending long paragraphs. She stopped checking who viewed her stories. She didn't block, she didn't chase. She just became unavailable. Not in a petty way, but in a healed, elevated, I know my worth now kind of way. And guess what? The people who once ignored her texts are now confused by her silence. Is she okay? Why isn't she trying anymore? She used to care so much. Exactly. That's the point. Silence isn't weakness. It's clarity walking in heels. In the workplace too, there are times when you've tried to prove yourself, over-delivered, smiled through disrespect, laughed off misogyny in boardrooms, and still they overlooked you. So you stop over-explaining. You stop raising your hand first. You let your work speak. You let results answer the questions your voice no longer has to. And people notice. Not because you screamed for credit, but because you moved in silence and shook the room anyway. Even in friendships, there comes a time when you realize your energy is not a charity. You stop calling people who only call when they're bored. You stop showing up for people who never check if you made it home. Your silence becomes a boundary. And guess what? The ones who only came around for noise, for gossip, for updates, they'll disappear. But the real ones, they'll feel your silence like a missing heartbeat. Because your energy was never ordinary. It was a gift. Silence is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of self-respect. Because the loudest scream you can ever release is the decision to not explain yourself anymore. To walk away without drama. To heal without announcing it. To grow without broadcasting the roots. Someone hurts you? You don't post a quote. You don't throw shade. You disappear. Someone doubts your worth? You don't prove them wrong. You let their absence speak volumes. Someone plays with your peace? You stop giving them a seat at your table. Let's be clear. Your silence is not emptiness. It's loaded with power, with answers, with a knowing that says, I'm done performing for people who refuse to clap. That kind of silence, it moves mountains. It closes chapters. It shakes egos. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire just to keep others warm with your explanations. Sometimes, the most divine thing you can do is go quiet, go inward, go sacred. Let your peace disturb the ones who were entertained by your chaos. Let your stillness speak where words failed. Because sometimes silence doesn't just say more, it says everything. Healing is a personal journey, not a group discussion. It's not a post, it's not a performance, and it's certainly not a panel of opinions. You don't need to explain your wounds to people who never bled with you. You don't need to justify your silence, your solitude, or your slow mornings to a world that claps louder for pain than for progress. Healing is messy. Healing is sacred. Healing is yours. And not everyone deserves front row access to it. There's a woman right now sitting in her room, deleting numbers not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. She's unfollowing accounts that used to remind her of who she once was. And every tap of unfollow is a breath of freedom. Healing, that's where power lives. We live in a world where people want you to document every step of your recovery like it's a TV show. Update us. Tell us what happened. Let's discuss it. But your healing is not up for debate. This is not a democracy. It's a divine decision between you and your spirit. Because the more you open your wounds for commentary, the longer they take to close. Not everyone wants you to heal. Some want you to stay broken, just so they feel better about their own cracks. Imagine someone grieving a heartbreak. Everyone around her has something to say. You should go out more. Just date someone new. Why are you still sad? But what they don't understand is that healing doesn't follow a timeline. It's not a schedule. It's a soul shift. Some days she's dancing in her kitchen like she never knew pain. And other days she can't breathe without crying. That's healing. It's not cute. It's not Instagrammable. It's raw. It's real. And most of all, it's private. Sometimes the best progress happens in the dark. Away from noise, away from validation, away from people who think healing is linear. It's not. It's one step forward, two steps sideways, a fall, a rise, a stillness, a storm. And the moment you stop inviting people into that chaos for their opinions, you start hearing your own voice. That's where true healing begins. When the only voice guiding you is your own, not filtered through likes, shares, or advice you never asked for. Even in therapy, the most powerful moments aren't when you explain your pain to the therapist. It's when you hear your own truth out loud, maybe for the first time. And that truth isn't for your cousin or your co-worker or that friend who just wants the tea. That truth is for you. You get to decide who sees your scars. And sometimes the answer is no one. Healing also doesn't always look wise or beautiful. Sometimes it looks like staying in bed. Sometimes it looks like walking out of a room quietly instead of engaging in drama. Sometimes it looks like crying on the bathroom floor with your makeup ruined and your soul tired. But you rise again. Not because someone clapped. Not because someone watched. But because you were ready. That's healing. That's what strength looks like behind the scenes. You don't owe the world an explanation for your peace. You don't owe anyone a front seat to your comeback story. Heal for you. Grow for you. Protect your process. Because when the healing is real, it's not loud. It's not theatrical. It's not for them. It's for you. And that is enough. Use pain as fuel, not as a performance. Because pain is not your identity, it's your ignition. You don't have to wear your wounds like a badge just to prove you survived. You're not here to entertain people with your scars. You're here to evolve, to rise, to burn brighter because of them. You don't owe the world a show. You owe yourself a comeback. Think of the woman who was betrayed by the one she trusted the most. The kind of betrayal that steals your breath and leaves your spirit curled up in corners. She could have gone online, posted quotes, thrown shade, told the world what he did. But she didn't. Instead, she got quiet. She hit the gym. She started that business she put off for too long. She poured her rage, her confusion, her grief into the grind. Every drop of sweat was a prayer. Every silent tear was a seed. Now, a year later, she's unrecognizable. Not because she performed her pain, but because she transformed it. Pain doesn't need an audience. It needs direction. You don't heal by getting sympathy claps from people who are just there for the drama. You heal when you turn that ache into action. When you channel your heartbreak into your hustle. When you stop begging for closure and start building a new chapter without asking for permission. There's a young girl who was told she'd never be enough. Not pretty enough. Not smart enough. Not loud enough to be seen. Her classmates laughed, her family dismissed her dreams. Instead of proving them wrong with words, she buried herself in the work. She stayed up late studying, she practiced until her hands ached. She used every insult like gasoline, every rejection like a spark. She didn't clap back. She leveled up. She didn't post about the pain. She built a life so powerful, it made people wonder how she did it. That is what it means to use pain as fuel. Pain is an emotion, yes. But left unchecked, it can become a performance. Some people get addicted to talking about their wounds. They wear their trauma like fashion. But the truth is, healing doesn't need validation. Growth doesn't need a stage. You can grieve and grow quietly. You can shatter, then shine without an audience. Think about a single mother, abandoned by her partner. The world expects her to collapse, to vent, to tell her story for sympathy. But instead, she works 2 jobs. She wakes up before the sun. She reads self-help books in the car while her kid naps. She saves every cent. And years later, when she buys her own house and her child walks across the graduation stage, that's the performance. Not the crying, not the heartbreak, the rise. Don't let pain turn you into a spectacle. Let it turn you into a force. People may doubt your journey. They may never know what you survived. And that's okay. You don't need their applause. You don't need them to understand the fire. You just need to burn. Let your comeback be your response. Let your glow up be your revenge. Let your evolution be so fierce that no one even remembers how they once broke you. You're not here to be pitied. You're here to be powerful. So take that pain, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sleepless night, and use it. Fuel your art, your career, your self-worth, your healing. Because pain, when used right, doesn't make you bitter. It makes you unshakable. The real glow up, it's not the makeup. It's not the vacation pictures or the filtered smiles on social media. The real glow up is when they realize you went through hell and said absolutely nothing. No announcements, no pity posts, no drama. You didn't perform your pain. You just carried it like a queen wears her crown, in silence, with strength, and on your own terms. That's not just resilience, that's power. There's a woman who showed up every single day at work with a smile, but no one knew she was crying herself to sleep every night. Her relationship had crumbled, her savings were gone, and the world she built had collapsed behind the curtain. She didn't broadcast her heartbreak. She didn't gather a crowd to mourn with her. She stood up, adjusted her shoulders, and kept walking. She didn't post about her struggle, but she became the message. And months later, when she launched her own business, when she stepped out, glowing and growing, the world finally looked at her differently. Not because she bragged, but because she became unbreakable. When you can suffer in silence and still smile in public, you've tapped into a level of strength most people can't even fathom. Because it's easy to talk about the fire, but walking through it without screaming for attention, that's divine. That's sacred. You don't need everyone to know your story. You just need your soul to be intact when the credits roll. Think of a girl in school, bullied for her looks, her silence, her background. She didn't fight back with words. She didn't try to prove her worth in loud ways. She hit the books. She learned how to move in shadows. While others laughed, she plotted her future. She walked, she studied, she endured. And when she walked across the stage years later, head held high, her name called with distinction, it hit different. The ones who mocked her, silent. The ones who doubted her, shook. That's a glow up you can't fake. Because it's not revenge, it's rebirth. You don't need to validate your pain for it to be real. You don't have to be loud for your transformation to be noticed. Let them underestimate you. Let them talk. Let them think you're fragile because you're quiet. Because the day they realize you didn't just survive, you evolved, they'll be stunned. And that silence will echo louder than any speech ever could. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not explain yourself. Let your growth do the talking. Let your glow be the proof. When they finally notice your peace, your power, your progress, and remember that you never once complained, they'll feel the shift. And that's when the glow up hits hardest. Not when you show them what you've built, but when they realize you built it in silence, in struggle, and in solitude. There's a woman who lost everything, her job, her marriage, her health. But she didn't become bitter, she became better. She woke up every morning, fought battles no one saw, and gave life to herself again. No applause, no sympathy, just sacred work done in the dark. And now, she walks with a light people can't explain. That's the glow up. That's what makes people stop and say, how did she do it? And the truth is, she did it while they were watching, but they missed it because they only looked for drama, not for dignity. Real transformation doesn't scream, it shifts quietly, fully, completely. And the ones who tried to break you, they'll never forget how you survived without ever having to say a word.
They thought your silence was weakness, but in truth, your silence was strategy. You didn't fall apart, you fell into alignment. You didn't break down, you broke through. And now, here you are, standing, glowing, unshaken. They don't know the nights you cried quietly. They don't know the weight you carried alone, but they feel the shift. They see the light. And make no mistake, this light wasn't gifted. It was earned. Earned in the dark. Earned in the fire. Earned in moments no one clapped for. You see, life isn't about proving yourself to the crowd. It's about mastering yourself in the silence. Anyone can be loud when they're winning, but it takes a warrior to be silent when they're suffering. That's why the glow up hits different. It's not skin deep, it's soul deep.
You didn't just survive, you became art carved from chaos. A living testimony that pain doesn't define you, it refines you. The world is filled with noise. People shouting their scars, begging for applause, acting like the loudest voice holds the most truth. But you chose a different path. You didn't need to scream your struggle. You didn't need sympathy. Because true warriors don't cry for rescue. They become their own rescue. You didn't post every battle. You didn't share every heartbreak. You turned your wounds into wisdom and your silence into strength. Never forget, a lion doesn't roar to prove it's a lion. It walks with presence, with power, with purpose. And that's you now. Your silence was never empty. It was sacred. It was where you rebuilt, where you reprogrammed, where you rose.
So the next time someone doubts your strength because you didn't bleed in public, smile, because queens don't explain their power, they embody it. You're not fragile, you're forged. You're not broken, you're becoming. And the ones who dismissed you, they'll wish they paid more attention when you were quiet, because that's when you were loading. You were never meant to stay small just to make others comfortable. Stop dimming your fire to fit into rooms you've already outgrown. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your healing. If they couldn't handle your pain, they don't deserve your peace. If they couldn't support your fall, they don't deserve your rise. Let your silence remind them that grace is power and restraint is strength. They thought they buried you, but what they didn't realize is you were a seed, and now you bloom where they least expected. You didn't need permission to rise. You didn't need permission to provide sunset.
An audience to evolve. You needed pain, you needed silence, you needed solitude, and you turned all three into your personal revolution. This is your era, not of explanation, but elevation. Not of apology, but alignment. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become despite it. They'll see the transformation. They'll wonder how you got here. But you'll know you walked through fire and refused to be ash. Remember this. Beyoncé said, "The best revenge is your paper." Maya Angelou said, "Still I rise." And you don't need to say a word, because your glow is your response. Your life is your loudest comeback. You've outgrown pain. You've outshined doubt. And you've outlived every rumor whispered behind your back.